Hello, happy Monday. Thank you so much for joining us on PL Express. My name's Kate Murray. I'm joined by Janusz Michallik as always. We've got lots to talk about. The top two lost over the weekend in the Premier League. There's been some big news regarding Man City this morning. We'll touch on that as well. Liverpool, things really aren't going well for them. That continues. And what does continue is things going well for Manchester United, although maybe not for Casemiro. We'll get into that red card and a lot more throughout the show. Hello, Janusz. Let's start with Arsenal, can we? Because obviously, they lost over the weekend to Everton under Sean Dyche. That, by the way, is their game in hand as well. Rescheduled fixture from September, which still has to be jammed into this packed schedule as well. So that just adds a little extra flavour to things as well. It's not time to press the panic button at Arsenal, is it?
Oh, not at all. One of those matches, right? When I first saw it, unfortunate in a way that there's a change and such change, right? Because it wasn't just any manager, but Sean Dyche. It had a feel for me just before, kind of old school, right? Old stadium, old way of playing football, the way Sean Dyche plays it. The fundamentals are obviously important, right? A real leader coming into that dressing room, and in a couple of days, changing things. Bad pitch. It had that feel of maybe playing, in January, or we're in February, sorry, 20 years ago. So, yeah, it's difficult. I think it was a fist fight, a little bit of a fist fight for Arsenal, but I think they picked up the gloves, right? I mean, at the end, they had their chances, I suppose, and it could have gone differently. I think it was always going to be difficult for them to play their brand of football. I'm not giving them an out here or absolute excuse, but I think, it showed one thing that always worried me about just a little bit, and that is what happens when the white players get taken out of the game, and that's exactly what happened. I thought that Everton did a great job with Michallik and Coleman on one side, the core, double teaming Saka and Martinelli. Saka, I thought, had a very, very good game. Martinelli, not so much, and they were out muscled in the middle of the pitch. Simple as that. So that's one area that when Arsenal play, they're great, right? But I think they're still missing that. Sometimes if you can't beat a player, and that was the case in the wide areas for the most part, why not cross it? If you're going to cross this, to whom? And there comes, you and I talking about Edin Nketiah. That's why he's, hot and cold, and it will be for me. Ultimately, I like him. I still don't think, and I'll be saying this all the time, I don't think he's the type of striker that they need.
What did you make of Odegaard in this game?
Yeah, he was poor. That's what I mean. In the center of the pitch, I think, look, I mean, Onana is a very, very good player. There's more to come from him. I thought Dacour did an incredible job in the center of the pitch. Idrissa Gueye was helping out as well. So, you know what type of football you're going to get from Sean Dyche. It's as simple as that. I mean, he rallied the troops. I think we all knew that Everton were never as bad as that. They were just lacking a leader. And in comes the leader. We'll see. Merseyside derby's coming up. So that's going to be a check on Everton. I don't think much will change. The fans will take it because they want to stay up, but long term, I don't think you're going to get much more from Sean Dyche than you've seen at Burnley. I think Vince Kompany is showing that.
So Brentford are coming up for Arsenal, and then Man City will be paying a visit. So we'll get to see the first of those league games between the two. And there's a few problems with Man City, which we're going to get into right now. As for Arsenal, though, how important is it, how crucial in this title race that they bounce back from this setback as soon as possible?
What I mean, that's obvious, right? I mean, with Man City losing, that's a big bonus for them. I'm not suggesting that Brentford's going to be easy, because yet again, this is going to be another very, very physical team coming in. I'm not saying similar to Everton, but this is not a team that's going to outplay you and one touch passes around you. But it's going to be physical enough, and they're in a great form. Look where they are. I mean, they can't seem to lose. So this is going to be difficult, but I think at home, Arsenal will show their quality. I mean, this is going to be super important. Even, I don't want to say more important than the City game, but psychologically going into that game, you must get the 3 points. I have a feeling that Arsenal will do that and will beat Brentford.
Janusz, are you giving it that old manager, the old Diego Simeone, of the next game's the most important? We're not looking ahead to any other games.
Yes, because I don't think they will be looking. They have played City. They've lost, obviously not in the league, but they have played them already. But I think they'll be just looking to and say, how unlucky can you be? I mean, the first game with Dyche, I had that feeling. I mean, everybody that watches Premier League will know that Sean Dyche can have that effect, and it happened. You're going to lose from time to time. It hasn't happened all the time. Look at Man City. I mean, we're going to see these surprises from time to time. So Brentford is going to be super important because it's not a walkover. That's for sure.
Let's talk about another club in London. It's not another club in North London just yet. We're going to talk about Chelsea because so much has been made, and understandably so, of the money that they spent in this winter transfer window. We got to see Enzo Fernandez. We got to see Michallik Mudryk again in the game against Fulham. Let's talk a little bit about what you saw in this game from these players, what you liked, what you didn't like, and how they're going to contribute to this Chelsea side going forward.
Yeah, in general, I saw a team in Fulham, and I saw a bunch of individuals at Chelsea. That's not surprising. Look, I mean, I've made my peace with Chelsea Football Club, at least for this season, right? I don't know what's going to happen in the Champions League, but let's talk about this league. There's a revolution going on at Chelsea. I mean, there's no other way of putting it. And you see different lineups, different players, and I think for the rest of the season, we're going to see more of it. A lot of criticism, I guess, about Mudryk. I don't get it. I mean, he's had a good couple minutes in his first game off the bench, but he hasn't played since end of November. I mean, what are we to expect from a player like that when he gets thrown in with new players that don't even know each other all that well? So I'm going to wait and see. The only question for me is, going into next season, is Graham Potter going to be the manager? Because I'm starting to have my doubts. I've said it here on this show that he's going to be here for the end of the season. I want time for him, but I just wonder if this revolution with all these players coming in, and surely another 2 or 3 in the summer, talking about number 9, another very experienced center back, I think by the looks of it, is going to be needed, and perhaps even more. I'm starting to have my doubts. I just think that there's going to have to be some experienced hand coming in, putting all of this together, because if Chelsea don't have a good start next season, I think this can kind of sort of fall apart.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see anyway. I wonder, Janusz, if they've already decided what's going to go on with Graham Potter, and regardless of what happens this season, he would be out at the end of the season anyway. I wonder if they know that. I wonder if they're thinking about that already. I wonder if a decision's being made.
Well, they should be. They should be. I mean, I'm looking at somebody like Pochettino. I know he's pretty loyal, right? I mean, when there's talk about Barcelona and, Espanyol and all of that, here Spurs and Chelsea, I would throw Pochettino out there, but I have a feeling that he's going to end up at Real Madrid next season. So, but anyway, they should be looking at somebody. I mean, this is not a sure thing. They've got themselves an inexperienced manager, right? And we've talked about it, who knows how to deal with younger players, but the pressures are different. So I'm slightly changing my tune on this one because I just don't see a style. I mean, I don't see anything. New players, I get that, but there's a certain way of playing, and I still don't know what that is under Graham Potter. I don't see anything that I could put a finger on and say, okay, this is how Chelsea will play when he integrates everybody. Just don't see it.
Yeah, Janusz, I'm going to get you to sign out and sign back in just a moment. We're just having a few Monday morning problems with the picture lining up. So I'll speak to you again in just a moment. While we do wait for Janusz to return, Manchester City have been charged by the Premier League for numerous alleged breaches of financial rules. Gab and Jules have already talked about this morning on their podcast. Let's hear what Gab had to say about it.
City's day obviously got worse. We touched upon this before. This is a breaking story as we record this, so we do have a few more details. My old colleague Martin Ziegler in the Times breaking this story, and there is a Premier League statement up. The Premier League statement is so ridiculous. You know my thoughts on lawyers, right? The statement says, like, we were reading this before, right? In 2009-10 season, violation of Premier League Rule 32B, blah, 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 blah.
B13,
yeah,
E4.
Oh, my God. Subsection 4, Article 2.
Can you tell us what
it's absolutely horrendous to read. Honestly, if you want to put something as clear as mud. Anyway, so the long and short of this is, this all dates back to the same thing that caused UEFA to reopen their case against City, ban them for 2 years, and that ban was later overturned. And that is a man named Rui Pinto and the Football Leaks files. Rui Pinto is as you know, Portuguese hacker. He started a website called Football Leaks where he started putting up documents and contracts whole range of things, mostly around Portuguese clubs initially, then spreading out. That's how we know, for example, about the Cristiano Ronaldo allegations with Catherine Mayorga.
Yeah.
That's how we found out how much money Gareth Bale made. All these things, right? He's responsible for all of that.
Yeah.
We're still not 100% sure. I mean, we know we have strong suggestions about that he hacked this one particular law firm. We don't know how he hacked other stuff. He says, "Oh, it's not really hacking. People give me
I
stuff."
got them,
Like, okay, whatever. Anyway, UEFA, on the basis of this, and after this information was given to the German magazine Der Spiegel, who published it all on their website. I think a lot of it is still there.
Yeah, you can check it out.
You go read it for yourself. UEFA brought the case, banned City for 2 years. Now, what did they ban City for? The case was that, I mean, there's several allegations, but the main one was that City sponsorship deals with Abu Dhabi-based companies essentially weren't real. Now, these sponsorship deals, for those who are like, oh, of course not, the same guy owns everything. Yeah, okay. But what happens is if, say, Etihad sponsor Manchester City and they give them $10, the way financial fair play works, City looks at it and says, UEFA look at it and say, okay, this is a related party, so we're going to assess it at fair market value.
Yeah.
So to assess it, they get experts, marketing companies, and say, okay, well, Manchester United, who are 4 times as big in terms of fans, from their similar deal, comparable deal, they get $5, so we're only going to count this as $5, right? Over time, those amounts have increased because Manchester United, all those clubs got bigger and bigger. The allegation and in Der Spiegel suggests that what City were actually doing was they had a shortfall. They would literally just call up these companies, mostly Emirati companies or companies with strong ties to Abu Dhabi, and say, hey, look, we need you to sponsor us for $30 million. And the company would say, okay, and we'll just wire you the money from, Abu Dhabi United Group's personal bank account. Essentially, I'm paraphrasing here, but that's essentially, which is obviously highly illegal.
Yeah.
Now,
obviously, there's a lot more on that on the Gab and Jules show if you're looking for more on the whole situation. But let's talk about how it affects matters on the pitch, because we've already seen a few problems for Manchester City. Janusz, this isn't going to help, is it?
No, it isn't. I mean, look, over 100 allegations, right? I mean, this is not the first time. We'll leave this to the lawyers, and I suppose we don't know what's going to happen, but this is damning. It is for sure. I think this is something that we've talked about. It happened 2000, started all the way in 2009, but remember,
2009, 10, and then 17, 18 campaign.
Well, remember, it was UEFA. Now it's Premier League, right? And they're out, of course, was that it was, 5 years and, time limitations. There are no time limitations here for Premier League. So them investigating that, it's going to cause problems. One thing I did read today, remember in May, I think, or April, Pep Guardiola said that he trusts them. But if they're lying to him, he's going to leave the next day. So remember those words, because those words are important. Yes, there's talk about managers being involved. I don't think it's Pep. I don't know if it's Mancini or anybody else for that matter, because it's not just the players, it's the managers as well. So look, where there's smoke, there's fire. I sometimes say this has been going on for so many years. So obviously this investigation is going to affect, I think, the way maybe you recruit, maybe some players, as we know. Look, I mean, the situation in Manchester City is not rosy right now. So if there are any players that had doubts and they start reading and asking questions about that, it may be problematic for Manchester City.
Yeah, it's not a good time for Pep when he says traveling to London is like traveling to Northern Europe as well. Obviously, there's a few problems at City when it comes to playing on the pitch. Listen, yesterday on our live show, we asked you a question that I actually want to flip around now. We asked you about whether Kane would have been a better fit at City. I want to take the Erling Haaland point, because obviously there must be some frustrations for this player not getting the service that he wants or needs right now in this side. And obviously we can't take away from the goals he scored for them already. He would already have won the top scorer in so many leagues in most seasons with those 25 goals. In hindsight, though, do you think he might have gone to another side? Do you think he could have been a better fit at another side with how he plays?
I don't even want to go there. I mean, it's craziness. I mean, he's a great player. He's a young player that's still learning, and he's going to get better and better. I mean, I think the problem is with Pep Guardiola and the rest of the team of not finding a better way for him to be more involved. That's down to the manager. And later on, I'll be probably talking about another manager because they're the leaders. They have to find a way. I mean, he scored 25 goals in this league, right? I mean, we can't be looking. Would he have been better at Chelsea? Maybe. I mean, they have a way of delivering balls, but they've had strikers as of late that they couldn't service, right? So I think, to me, that's madness to ask a question. Now, as you know, I questioned that very, very early in the way that Manchester City play because they were different. They were built to play with a false number 9 because the way they play, the combination play, the way of playing. You look at Arsenal under Arteta, who obviously has learned a lot from Pep Guardiola. They're very similar, right? But you can change the way you play knowing where the player is. So, I think the problems are bigger than that. I think that the problems are in the midfield. The problem is maybe some lack of motivation that's been lost. You've seen the problems with Cancelo. But I don't think you put that down to Erling Haaland because a premium for a player like that is incredible as we know it. It's very hard to find players that find goals on consistent basis. And I've said it before, Kane would be scoring as many goals as Haaland, I think, maybe differently. But I think it's irresponsible to take the pressure off Manchester City and Pep Guardiola to say, well, Haaland's not a good fit. That's crazy.
Okay, let me put it to you this way. Let's have some fun with it, please.
Okay.
Where would Haaland fit really well right now if it's not City?
In about just every team in the world. Every team. I mean, really. I mean, it's that simple because if I don't want to sit here and come up with theories that just to sound good. I mean, he's a great goal scorer. I don't think that's an issue. I just think the issue right now is for him to get integrated. You see him coming back a little bit more. Trust him, right? I mean, play him a little bit more often. I think the way City play, with Bernardo Silva right now. Bernardo Silva has been playing everywhere now, right? But in a position that he's best. And that, to me, is still central, a little bit closer to Haaland. Let him combine. I think there's maybe lack of trust with Erling Haaland a little bit, because I think maybe in the mind of some of the players, he's that, last pass type of player. He's not being considered in the build-up right now. And I think Erling Haaland is good, more than good enough to be involved in the buildup of Manchester City. But I don't think they use him. They just kind of, De Bruyne gets the ball if he plays. They look for him. It's that last moment, last pass for him to put away the goals, which he has, right? I mean, if you look at most of his goals are coming from what? Between 6 and 10 yards away from goal. That's great. We all know that he can do that, but we've seen him in Dortmund where he needs space sometimes, where you have to release him and find him early. But I think the rest of the team needs to start trusting Erling Haaland and use him and integrate him in their attack.
Meanwhile, things are going a lot better for Manchester United right now. However, there's been a lot of talk about Casemiro's red card at the weekend. Before we get into it, let's hear what the boys on FCTV had to say about it.
Really, for that, yeah, if you think it's not a good image for Young, yeah, give him a red card. But I wanted to see if he caused damages to the player that he was strangling. No, because the guy went away and he pushed everybody. He was just holding him.
But Frank, you know, if you want to hold someone, you don't. If you want to protect someone, you could do that on the chest. You don't need to do that motion.
No. I'm with Frank.
Well, that's Casemiro way of showing his love to our opponents. That's what he's doing.
That's against the law.
I don't know.
I'm with Frank.
Yes,
I've seen red for 2 yellows, by the way. Sorry, yeah.
I heard you discuss that yesterday, and I heard also that you were anonymous saying that this was a right red card. I think you handled it wrong, that you're using slow motion to take out this. There was nearly that Casemiro needed to go to prison for that. I mean, this is happening. For me, the referee, there is 2 things he got to do. Either he just says there's nothing, or he has to make 5 red cards. What happening there? So I think that was bad refereeing. I think it was bad handling. And I think to overdo this, to say that Casemiro, that was so terrible what he did, well, then you've never been in a bust-up in English football.
I don't think anyone's saying he needs to go.
Okay, so there's a little bit of a nightly show, which obviously I'm sure you're all familiar with, and what they thought about. He's going to miss 3 games. It's a double header against Leeds randomly, and Leicester as well at home. Janusz, what did you think of this red card and the decision that was made?
I mean, absolutely disastrous. I mean, that's, I don't even know where to begin. I agree with the boys, and I'm surprised because I thought that somebody was going to defend him. I didn't hear, defend the red card. But, I hook my mom tighter than what happened there. We're just way too sensitive. I think that's what VAR is for. That's what knowledgeable player in that booth, people, not players, in that booth should know. I mean, both players were laughing about it. I think that we've been conditioned to automatically assume that if you see hands anywhere near the head, that it absolutely must be a red card. The definition of that, I think, is violent conduct. There was absolutely nothing violent about this, zero. And I'm really sad about this because, there's always been a gray area. I trust the referees. I've given a shot to the VAR, but I think some decisions are just made automatically. In that melee, there was much more violent stuff going on. He was the only one that was red carded. I think there was probably, I don't know, I didn't count, but I bet you there was probably 10 or 15 tougher tackles in that game that were closer to the definition of violence. So I'm really sad about that because he's a good player. I mean, look, it's Man United. We're not biased here. At least we try not to be. I want to see the best players on the pitch. We all know how important Casemiro is. I think we all enjoy watching him play football because he makes such a big difference to this football club. And for Manchester United to lose such an important players for something like this, where there's ample time for everybody to take a deep breath, to look at all of this, look at the context of it, and see what was happening with the 2 players laughing about it. I mean, it's absolutely criminal. I mean, any sport or any entertainment, you want to have the best players out there on the pitch, right? I mean, we quietly, maybe if you're a fan of a team, cheer for others or the big rivals to be weakened, but that's not the right thing to do. And this to me is criminal. I don't understand it. I don't get it. Without VAR, maybe, just maybe, I would have bought into it. I would have been saying the same thing, but at the very least, I would have given the referee benefit of the doubt because maybe he didn't see it the way we were able to see it with replays. But with VAR being there, to me, this is a criminal decision.
How high are you on Manchester United right now, though?
I am. It wasn't a perfect game, that's for sure. But they have a player that's hot in form. Marcus Rashford continues to score in just about every game. I think they have an incredible leader in Ten Hag, which we've said numerous times. They won a game that they weren't at their best, which is important. They had to suffer towards the end for sure, or throughout the game really, because I thought Crystal Palace played a pretty decent game at Old Trafford. So I'm still high, and I'll be high even without Casemiro. They've already been without him, by the way. This is the second time he's going to miss games. I think the first time was yellow cards, right? But I think, look, I'm looking at Arsenal. I'm looking at Manchester City. We continue to talk about those 2 as the favorites, but, we're 2 fights. Sometimes the third benefits. And I think that Manchester City, I've said it before, I'll say it again, they're in that fight for the title.
United are in the title race.
Yes, United. Yes. We're 2 fight.
Okay.
Maybe the third benefits.
Well, yeah, 3 points behind Man City right now. So, yeah, I suppose you'd have to say it with that being the case. Let's talk about Manchester United's eternal rivals, though, Liverpool. Because you wonder, Janusz, with everything that's going on, you wonder when you see them right now, how it's actually going to get any better. Is it?
No, it's not going to get any better this season. And, this is again, this is Jurgen Klopp. That's his ship. I've mentioned that before, and I said I was going to talk about that. He has to get this right. He has to put away the narrative of the 7th year and all of that. I think he's good enough. He's proven that he's good enough. I think he's got a very good team once he gets everybody together. So now he's got to make some decisions. And the decisions are such as forget about being loyal, talk to your medical department, because it is incredible over the last 2 or 3 seasons, even when they were at their best, how many injuries and the sort of injuries they have. Talk to the scouting department to make sure that you look at players that don't have that history, right? I mean, I'm not getting rid of the likes of Konate because I love him, but we all knew that, right? The Matip story continues. I know he's not going to be there probably in the summer, but you've got to look at some of these players. Having said all of that, look, the mindset of players at the highest level, at least I think, is such that once you accomplish something, it's very, very hard to do that in a way that Jurgen Klopp wants to play football, right? So I think early on, when it slips away from you, subconsciously, you know that you're not fighting for what you're supposed to fight. There's only 1 or 2, maybe 3 teams in that league that come into the season knowing that they have a legitimate chance of winning it, and Liverpool are one of them. And I think that's gotten away from them with the injuries to key players that made it even more difficult. So I think this is a very important summer. I think the question of ownership is important because that weighs in the back of their minds. But I mean, look, Manchester United, kind of similar situation, right? Nobody's happy with the Glazers. You kind of always question their commitment, even though they buy players. Look, Ten Hag came in with all that noise in the background, still managed to turn the team around within a couple months. So I think Jurgen Klopp needs to show now that he's the sort of manager that can do that. And I believe that once the season starts, you're going to get Bobby Firmino back. He's going to be good for some games. You're going to get Jota, Luis Diaz. You still have Mo Salah. I'm assuming that most of the players that I'm talking about are going to stay here. Van Dijk's going to come back. That's going to change the way that Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold play, because they're still a very good player. Just get the engine room done. That's all you have to do. Get 2 horses that will do what Henderson used to do, Wijnaldum and all that, and things can go back to normal. This is not a massive overhaul. This is just Jurgen Klopp showing everybody that, look, I still got it.
And we're going to find out if he has still got it, if those things can go his way. That's all we've got time for on the latest edition. Don't worry, we didn't miss out Harry Kane chat. It's just that yesterday we did delve deeply on Harry Kane and everything that he offers to the game as a striker. So make sure to check out the rest of the content on our YouTube channel to go and see what we had to say about Harry Kane yesterday. That's it for PL Express. We'll be back same time next week. See you then.